Slasher movies owe everything to John Carpenter's little indie horror movie Halloween. It kickstarted the slasher genre as we know it today. We wouldn't have Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street or any other imitation or knockoff movie that came out years later. After John Carpenter worked on the movie Assault on Precinct 13, a man called Mustafa Akkad wanted John to make a movie in which babysitters were brutally murdered by a psychopath. John Carpenter agreed to make the movie as long as he could have full creative control over the project. They obliged. He wrote the film's screenplay with his girlfriend at the time, Deborah Hill. The title, while writing, was changed to Halloween, and the rest is history. So, let's get on with the plot. On Halloween night 1963, the young Michael Myers stabs his sister to death. Years later, we meet a Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, and a nurse, played by Nancy Stevens, arriving at Smith's Grove Sanatorium, where they see the patients wandering outside in the night in the rain. He then drives off, because obviously they give murderers free driving lessons. Loomis doesn't take his escape too well. We then cut to Haddonfield, Illinois, where we see Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, deliver a key to the abandoned We then cut to Haddonfield, Illinois, where we see Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, deliver a key to the abandoned Myers house. We then also meet Tommy Doyle, played by Brian Andrews. We also meet Laurie's totally infuriating friends, Annie Brackett and Linda Van Der Klock or something, played by PJ Souls and Nancy Keys, who both use the word totally way too much and it loses all meaning. Loomis arrives in Haddonfield after discovering Michael has killed a gas station attendant and has stolen his clothes. Back in Haddonfield, Sheriff Brackett, played by Charles Cyphers, meets Laurie and his daughter Annie. He reveals that some kids stole a mask, rope and knives. He sounds way too chilled out about the knives part. I suppose it was the 70s and not the hellish 2010s. Loomis then meets the sheriff and warns him of the threat of Michael, but he doesn't take him too seriously, even after Loomis's ultimate speech and a dead dog that Michael has eaten inside of his house. Night falls and Laurie is babysitting Tommy. Annie is also across the road with another kid. Annie wants to go pick up her boyfriend Paul, so she dumps the kid with Laurie, but when she gets in the car, Michael strangles her to death. Meanwhile, Linda and her boyfriend arrive at the house that Annie was babysitting in, but the house is empty, so they decide to have dangerous sex next to a lit jack-o'-lantern that could ignite the whole house. Her boyfriend Bob goes down to get them some beers, but Michael impales him with a knife. Awesome kill, but it doesn't make sense, as the knife wouldn't be able to go all the way through to impale him, as it isn't long enough. I suppose it doesn't really matter, because it's just bloody awesome. Especially the way Michael just sort of admires the sort of thing he's done, like some kind of weird confusion. Michael then dresses up and strangles Linda while dressed as a ghost. Not really sure why. But he does this while Linda is on the phone to Laurie. Laurie thinks it's a prank to start with, but after the noise stops abruptly, she isn't too sure everything is alright, and she decides to head on over to the house. She arrives to find all the bodies of Michael's victims, and thus begins one of the greatest chase scenes of all time. But Loomis arrives and shoots Michael several times until he backs off of a ledge. They think it's over, but Michael gone, he gone! The score was composed by John Carpenter himself, and this is one of the most memorable horror movie themes of all time. The film was received poorly until Roger Ebert gave it a glowing review, making people go and see it. Due to word of mouth, the film made $70 million on a budget of around $300,000. Michael Myers has a real threatening presence in the movie, as there is just no way of actually explaining why he's doing any of the things he's doing. He's just some kind of force of nature that is able to drive a car. Plus his mask is a Captain Kirk mask from Star Trek. What Shatner feels about this, I'm not too sure. I don't actually have a clue what he's on about most of the time. He's just kind of crazy. Plus, Donald Pleasence's acting in this movie is superb, and his speech about Michael Myers is brilliant. But Laurie's friends in this film are just infuriatingly annoying. Plus, there's a lot of sort of slow moments just with people walking about, and it feels like it's just kind of extending the movie's runtime, so it's actually feature length, which it is kind of just barely that. But the opening of the movie is excellent, using a sort of dolly to move the camera around, and this hadn't really been done before ever. So it was sort of new and original at the time, and it has aged really well as everything is done all in one take, and that is something that needs to be sort of recognised, as it's very impressive. Halloween is a hugely important horror movie that everyone owes it to themselves to see it. It influenced the slasher genre greatly and is just simply a great scary movie. But in the meantime, enjoy the scary movies we have now, but never forget the classics. But above all, have a happy Halloween. Oh my god. Oh man, William Shatner? I love Star Trek. What are you doing here? Can I get you a drink? I mean, are you thirsty? I mean, where do you live? What drugs are you taking these days? Can you suggest me some, yeah, I have so many questions. How did you get in my house? Do you know who I am? Oh, Jesus. Oh, I can't. Oh, no. Michael Myers? Oh, shit. Call someone. Hello, I need the police. I've killed William Shatner. He just appeared and I shot him with this gun. I think he's still there.